Good afternoon. It's me, Larry, and I'm coming to you live from Stevie's room. Today's discussion is giving a pet as a gift. I just watched the video and I didn't comment of um, a child opening up a holiday gift, and it was a stuffed animal of a puppy. And sure enough, in the background, a puppy walks in, and the child is thrilled, and the parents gave this child this puppy for the holidays. Here's my views on this. All the comments were very favorable. Oh, how cute, how nice, wonderful parents, what an adorable child. The child really loves dogs. All those because it really is a positive moment, but it is only a moment. And an animal is a 15 plus year commitment with follow through. Let me not remind you that I have a 12-year-old cat that I pulled from the shelter. So sometimes down the line, things don't go for some people who are not eligible to make that type of. A 4-year-old can't, obviously, and whether or not the parents fulfill this later on in their life is questionable. I mean, I have a neighbor that did the exact same thing, gave his daughter a puppy for the holiday, and the sweetest dog. But when the child became older, he was not a dog person. He was not an animal person. In fact, I don't think he even really liked animals. He didn't like cats, that's for sure. And it was the sweetest dog. He would cage it in his house. Why? It was a friendly dog. It was already housebroken. I mean, it's just like he didn't want it on his furniture. He didn't want hair. He wasn't a dog person. He should not have had a dog. He barely walked it. You know, a lot of my neighbors are like that. You don't even know they have a dog. They just throw it in the yard. It's a yard dog. There are some people that never walk their dog at all. Their dog has never been on a leash. This is a Miami thing. You know, with the warm climate here, there are some people that their dog it's almost like, you know, it's almost like a wild animal to some extent, yet it's friendly with the owner, companion. I got to keep changing that word. In my life, when I had a dog as a child, it was a member of the family. Tutti is a member of the family. My cats are family members. They are cherished and loved like family. And it is a commitment. They're not, you know, and what happened to that dog with the neighbor? Well, when the child got older and he really wasn't into doing the responsibility and the wife, and it became work rather than fun and cute, the dog made it to grandma, allegedly. You know, that's what happens. That there is a second part to that story, and it's not always a great part. They are not objects, they are not disposable, they are not gifts, they are companions. I feel very strongly on this because I wonder what percentage of animals that end up at the shelter once upon a time were a gift that just over the period of time, and when the kitten was no longer cute, or when the dog was an adult, or when the medical bills started adding up, that it became um, reality, and even perhaps an inconvenience and an expense instead of fun. This isn't supposed to be just all fun. It's a responsibility. So I hope that if you're watching this and you're considering this, that you weigh all the options. Look, I can't tell anybody what to do with their life, but at least you know that in my experience, I've seen the other side of this, and that you really ought to think. I've even seen relationships where the person is dating and it's really cute, and you know, I saw where she gave him a dog. But when they broke up, the dog was still with him. Um, it's an uncomfortable thing. That dog, you know, suddenly the dog becomes um, wrapped up in a personal relationship drama. It's bad enough that it happens with the people's kids when they break up, but it's not good. Even with animals, it's not good. You know, obviously people can't stay together just because the animals love each other. Um, they shouldn't have to. But if there ever is anything that's more hard to do, is to break up a bonded pair of cats or dogs that, because the relationship folded and one animal came from person A and the other one came from person B, and keeping them together, the person, wants their pet, doesn't want to be tied to the person, and it's not, it's a breakup. Um, it works out fine if the animals were bonded, I suppose, but if they are, it's a really hard thing. So these are all certain dynamics. Surely giving a pet as a gift um, ramps up the situation to be something that could be avoided. Let the person get a dog on their own when they're ready, or discuss it with the person and go collectively as a family and get the dog if that's something you want to do, or the cat. But don't just spring it on somebody. Some people might not even be able to take care of it. They get it as a gift, and right out of the beginning, they realize, like, well, wait a minute, I don't, my life isn't. I didn't really expect this. Imagine that. You get a gift of a pet, and you're not equipped for it, and the person meant well, but the person who on the receiving end in the very first stage feels like they just had a big commitment thrown at them and doesn't know how to deal with it and say no. And then what do you do when you say no? Bring it to the shelter where it's thrown in a cage and it might not even make it out? I mean, it's just not good. Now, somebody might think, well, wait a minute. I have an example. My dog or my friend, I know there are counterexamples, but I think that person could have gotten the dog a different way. Didn't have to be that way. It could have even been at the holidays where it was discussed and said, well, I didn't want to give it as a gift, but um, let's talk about it because that's what I wanted to give you. Are you interested in this? As I know you've always wanted a puppy, and I know you always wanted, let's say, a German Shepherd, or I know you always wanted, um, a Bengal cat. And by the way, you know my feeling on purebred animals. Okay, I mean, I'm saying those as examples because that's usually the person who's giving a gift is usually looking at it like, they're looking at a difference between a Swatch and a Rolex. I mean, they really, I don't know, they're looking at it as a material thing, and suddenly the intrinsic value becomes different. In my opinion, my street cat that would die in the shelter has extreme value. And the person who's profiteering off the animal and creating a overpopulation problem by breeding these purebred beautiful cats that are absolutely gorgeous, and dogs even more so, is not is doing it on the taxpayer expense, because some of them end up in shelters when they were perfectly fine animals there to begin with, that they overlooked because they wanted to have the person wanted to have a vanity pet. They want to say, oh, but I have a Savannah cat. Oh, I have I mean, look, I won't dismiss the beauty of these animals. And if there was no population problem, I wouldn't feel that way. But there is. And there is a need. And it is life or death. And to me, saving a life is more important than having this beautiful creature that somebody made a profit off of. 20, 30, $40,000 for some of these animals. Maybe even more by now. Thanks for listening. Be well. If this sparked some tone of controversy or got you to think, or even got you to discuss this within yourselves, then I think that's a good thing. Like I said, maybe I said it in my first take that I erased, because this was my second take on this. I can't tell anyone what to do with their life, so you have to decide what works. But at least you're speaking to someone who has seen the other side of how this can play out and can weigh some of that into your decision making. I will wish you luck no matter what. Look, obviously, if you gave a dog or a cat as a gift and it made it to its happy home for 20 years of a beautiful life, that's surely better than dying in a shelter. So, I'm not saying it can't work out. I'm just saying evaluate the premise that it's an object, a gift, a material thing, rather than a companion. Look at it as though it's a companion. At least that's how I feel. These are our companions. Thanks for listening. Be well. Have a good day.